It began the same way every morning did, too early, a little tired, but with something stirring inside me that didn't exist before. A quiet hunger to become better. Not perfect, just better than yesterday. One morning, I remembered a message someone in my online study group had shared. If you wouldn't say it to your best friend, don't say it to yourself. That hit me hard, because the truth was, I had spent years saying things to myself I would never say to anyone else. You're not good enough. You're just pretending. You'll probably fail. And honestly, those thoughts didn't come from nowhere. They were built up over time, from failures, rejections, people who underestimated me. But the worst part, I had started to believe them. So, I decided to do something small, maybe even strange. I stood in front of my mirror and said, I am learning. I am growing. I am enough. My voice cracked a little. I looked away before I could finish the third line. But the next day, I tried again. I am learning. I am growing. I am enough. I said it louder, clearer. Then I wrote those words on a sticky note and placed it on my mirror. I wrote the same line on a second one, stuck it to my laptop, another one on the bathroom wall. Soon, they were everywhere. My words, my truth, whether I fully believed it yet or not. Each day, those sticky notes stared back at me. At first, it felt silly, like I was pretending. But after a week, something started to shift. I was repeating these lines out loud, but they were also repeating quietly in my head, in moments when I needed them most. Like when I was nervous before an online interview. I am enough. Or when I missed a deadline. I'm still learning. Or when I felt stuck in comparison with others. I'm growing. These weren't magic words, but they gave me a foundation. A reminder that I didn't have to be perfect today. I just had to show up for myself again and again. That's when I realized we don't become who we want to be by accident. We become that person by showing up in small, intentional ways, especially when no one else is watching. Because when you're the one cheering yourself on, your growth becomes unstoppable. And the best part, these 3 simple lines became something more than words. They became my belief system. I am learning. I am growing. I am enough. Maybe it starts that way for you too, with just one voice in the mirror, one note on a wall, one moment where you choose to believe in yourself, even when it's hard. Because the voice you choose to listen to is the one that shapes who you become. So now I ask you, what words will you choose to repeat until they become true? The change didn't just come from what I was doing during the day, but what I began doing each night. When the world went quiet and I was finally left with my own thoughts. At first, I used to scroll endlessly through my phone before falling asleep, like watching random videos, checking messages I didn't really care about. But it always left me feeling restless, like something was missing. Then, during a video call with someone from my online study group in Canada, they mentioned their gratitude journal. 3 things every night. That's it. Simple, but powerful. So I decided to give it a try. That night, I took out a notebook I hadn't used in months. I opened to a blank page and wrote the date at the top. Then I sat there, pen in hand, unsure what to write. It felt weird. What was I really thankful for? But after a few minutes of just sitting in silence, 3 things came to mind. First, I thought about my dad's silent sacrifices. That day, I'd seen him come home after a long shift. His shirt stained with sweat, his shoes worn out. He didn't complain. He just walked in, smiled at me, and asked if I'd eaten. He always put us first, even when he had nothing left to give. Then I remember my brother's laughter. He is 14, always joking, always dancing around the house, even when things are stressful. That night, he tried doing a British accent to make me laugh, and it worked. That laugh reminded me that joy can still exist, even when life isn't perfect. Last but not least, that cup of tea with my gran sprang to my mind. She doesn't say much anymore, but when she poured me tea earlier that afternoon, she placed her hand on mine, smiled, and just said, "You're doing good." That simple moment meant more to me than 1,000 compliments. I looked at the list, and felt something shift inside me. Not everything in my life was fixed. I wasn't there yet, not by a long shot. But in that moment, I realized I already had so much. So I did it again the next night, and the next. Some days it was hard. Some days I felt like everything had gone wrong. But even on those days, I forced myself to find something, even something small, like the smell of fresh coffee in the morning, a kind message from a friend, a new English word I finally understood. And slowly, this tiny nightly habit became the anchor to my day. It grounded me. It helped me stop chasing what I didn't have and start appreciating what was already in my hands. Because when you look for good things, you start to notice more of them. You start to focus less on your failures and more on your blessings. You stop seeing life as something missing and start seeing it as something meaningful. And now, I want to leave you with a question I ask myself every night. What 3 things made today worth living? Maybe they're big. Maybe they're tiny. But they're always there, if you look close enough. And once you start looking, you'll realize the good has been with you all along. I used to think stories like mine didn't matter. That unless you had something impressive to show, some big win, some shiny success, no one would care to listen. I believe that your story only counted if you made it big. If the world saw you, clapped for you, celebrated you. But that idea, it started to break the night I got a message from a kid I didn't even know. He was 17, from a small town in Ohio. He'd found one of my old posts in a study forum, where I had shared a short journal entry, just a few words about staying consistent even when I felt lost. He wrote, "Thank you. I was going to quit tonight, but then I saw your post, and I didn't." That message made me sit down, put my phone away, and just breathe, because for the first time, I truly felt it. Our stories don't need to be perfect to be powerful. Let me take you back a bit. There was a time I thought success belonged to other people, people with more confidence, more money, more chances. I thought maybe I had already missed my shot. But here's what life taught me, through quiet mornings, small wins, and hard lessons. Success isn't one big moment. It's a million tiny ones. It's getting out of bed when your heart feels heavy. It's applying to that internship, even when you think you're underqualified. It's choosing to journal instead of escape. It's whispering, "I am enough," when your mind tries to convince you otherwise. There wasn't a single day I woke up and magically made it. But there were many days I woke up and said, "Let's try again." And each of those days built something inside me. I think back to the late nights when I'd sit in the living room, laptop open, applying to places I never thought would even look at my name. Or mornings when I'd stare in the mirror and tell myself, over and over, "You are learning. You are growing. You are enough." At first, it felt ridiculous. Like, who was I trying to convince? But then, slowly, something shifted. The words stopped sounding like lies. They started to feel like truth. My truth. And you know what's wild? The people around me noticed too. My younger brother began studying harder, not because I told him to, but because he saw me doing it first. My dad started sharing more, just little stories from work, lessons about resilience. Even my grandma, who rarely talked tech, asked me to teach her how to use Zoom so she could join one of my English calls. That's the thing about growth. It ripples. When you show up for yourself, you're not just changing your life. You're lighting a path for someone else. So if you're sitting there, unsure where to begin, let me say this. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need a 5-year roadmap. You don't even need to be fearless. All you need is to believe that your next small step matters. Because one day, someone out there, maybe your sibling, your friend, a total stranger, might be on the edge of giving up. And they'll see you. Not your titles. Not your bank account. Not your resume. You. Your effort. Your truth. Your grit. And maybe they'll say, if they didn't give up, maybe I won't either. That's why your story matters. Even the messy parts. Even the silent battles. Even the days no one sees. Because real stories, the ones that touch hearts, the ones that change lives, They don't come from perfection. They come from persistence. And if you've read this far, I want you to know, maybe the best chapters of your story haven't even been written yet. And maybe, just maybe, the next page begins today. Let me leave you with this. You don't need to change your whole life in one day. That's not how real change works. You start small. 5 minutes. 1 word. 1 page of a book. 1 honest conversation. That's it. That's how it begins. I know it sounds simple, maybe even too simple. But the truth is, the most powerful things in life often start quietly. With a whisper, not a roar. With a decision, not a perfect plan. Maybe it's writing 1 sentence in your journal tonight. Maybe it's saying no to something that no longer feels right. Maybe it's messaging that one person who inspires you, just to say thank you. Or maybe it's just choosing to believe, for one day, that you're not behind. You're not too late. And you're not alone. Because the perfect time, it's not next week. It's not after you finish that course. Or when you feel 100% confident. It's now. Right here. Right where you are, with whatever you have. And I'm not telling you this as someone who has it all figured out. I'm telling you this as someone who still stumbles, who still doubts, who still wakes up some mornings feeling unsure. But I also know this. Every time I chose to take one more step, no matter how small, it mattered. So now, let me pass the torch to you. You made it this far. You've listened. You felt something shift inside, even if it's just a little. And now, you get to decide what happens next. Are you going to be the person who only dreams, or the person who does? Because one of those people will look back in 5 years and smile. Not because it was easy, but because they were brave enough to start. So here's the challenge. Before today ends, do one small thing that honors the future you want. Just one. Let that be the beginning of everything. And as for what comes after, well, that's the beautiful part. That story's still yours to write. So here we are, the edge of this story. Or maybe the very beginning of yours. There's something I wish someone had told me earlier in life, and maybe no one has told you yet either. Success doesn't ask for perfection. It doesn't care how smart you are. It doesn't care how late you start. It only asks for one thing, that you don't quit. You don't need to run full speed every day. You just need to keep going, even when it's slow, especially when it's slow. You just need to believe that the effort you're making, no matter how small, is planting something real, something that will bloom in time. Because 1 year from now, on a quiet evening, you might be sitting somewhere that doesn't even exist in your life yet. Maybe it's in a cozy apartment, a coffee cup warming your hands. Maybe you're in a job that makes your heart beat with purpose. Maybe someone you love is sitting across from you, proud of the person you've become. And you'll smile, because the version of you in that moment, that future self, will remember this day, this tiny, quiet moment when you decided not to give up, and they'll whisper back across time, "Thank you for showing up. Thank you for trying. Thank you for not quitting when it was easier to walk away." So now, it's your turn to take the next step. And when you do, trust that something good is already waiting on the road ahead. This story isn't over. In fact, it's just getting started.